I never got it, why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, 'cause I got no chance, no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
Good morning, Mike and Arlene, our Philippine journey. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm up early this morning. It's actually 2 o'clock in the morning here in Angeles City in the Philippines. I don't know why, but yesterday after running a couple of errands, I don't know why. I was just exhausted for some reason and slept. Now, this unfortunately continued through the night. It's pretty interesting as we go and look at some things. And for those of you that are returning subscribers, we'd like to say how much we appreciate it and your support in watching our videos. For those of you that are new or you've never been exposed to us that much, one of the things that we try and do, one of the things that we strive to do, is present information that is as well researched and credible as we can. Now, granted, some of that information is going to be individual opinion, but our opinions are formulated by what we're exposed to and by what we research. My background, it just is inherent in putting together that type of information. That being said, we see a lot of misinformation. We see a lot of information that we know is not completely valid. Finally, we see information that we know isn't credible because they're referencing things that aren't credible. You know, there's a old quote that one of our subscribers, Bipolar, mentioned. I had forgotten about it long ago. But yeah, one of my professors in graduate school actually said it, although he didn't create it. But the quote is like this: there are three kinds of lies. There are damned lies. Actually, there are lies, damned lies, and statistics. And the person that gets the most credit for that is Mark Twain. Now, for those of you that are going to say, oh my God, that's not exactly correct, you're right. They're not sure, but they're pretty sure that Mark Twain got that information from somebody else. And people often say it's actually attributed to Benjamin Disraeli, who was a prime minister in the UK back in the day. But the validity of the statement is absolute. When we start doing and fact checking things that we see, we have sources that we go to, and obviously those sources can be less than thorough. One of the sources that we do use is statistics.org. And even that is flawed if you look at oh my, I have the window open this morning, the sliding glass doors. And even at 2 a.m, I guess it's a little lively out there today if the background noise got to you. We had a hell of a rainstorm last night. It's now the rainy season officially as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, the point is unless you know how these statistics are gathered, or unless you take the time to look at how those statistics are gathered, you're screwed. You are based, your opinion is based on the fact of those statistics. I mean, who can argue with that? Well, you have to look at how those things are argued. In medicine, when there's a specific protocol for gathering the statistics that big pharma has to use, and that is the size of the population. Well, there are a lot of them, but some of those are the size of the population, a um, a group that are in that population that are as part of the test, and another group that's part of the not part of the test, but they're giving a placebo or something less than whatever it is they're going after to see the results, and then they're measuring the results. And these are all great grand things, but human beings, our bodies are all individual and different, and trying to get people that are two identical or hundreds of identical matches are very difficult, which is why the bigger the population study is more. The point is that there are rigorous guidelines. But when gathering statistics about other things, those guidelines are not quite so rigorous. And then there are websites and people that gather information based on however they want to. And one of those is some of the shocking statistics that people put out about the Philippines. The PSA, the Philippine Statistical Administration, is the one that gathers information and uses that for the Philippines GDP, the cost of living, all kinds of different things. All right. And then they send that information down the line to the respective government units that take care of it or use it, like immigration or anybody else. Well, there's a lot to be looked at here. And I commend the Philippine government on gathering some of this minute information. Some of it is stuff that governments and like the U.S. government. The U.S. government doesn't gather that information. The U.S. government has other entities it gets that information from. It's not a complete clearinghouse. So like the FDA gathers certain information. Now, yeah, it's a government unit. All right. But the FDA gathers that information, and then that information is then handed off. Like everywhere else, that information can be skewed. All right. For instance, if somebody wants to get information on the amount of damage, say, logging does in a certain area, because they want to get the government to approve logging, you can rest assured that one of the driving forces behind that might just be a logging company who has lobbied, paid somebody or some entity big money to go to a congressman or a senator and get that ball rolling based on a certain criteria. So statistics are a byproduct of the information. Now, if it's a purely mathematical equation, then you're saying, oh, well, it can't, that's not biased, but it is. It absolutely is. For instance, one of the biggest and most horrendous parts of that, and I'm not saying horrendous because the example I'm picking is terrible. I'm saying it's horrendous based on how that, on the subject matter it is. Okay? And I don't pick a side in either direction. It's shocking to many people who look at how poorly the U.S. rates in infant mortality. Okay? Infant mortality in the United States. Wow. That's quite loud. Very busy. Infant mortality in the United States is not measured the same way as it's measured in many other countries. And why does infant mortality rate, why is the U.S. infant with our healthcare system in the U.S., why does it rate so much higher than other countries? Well, it's because in the U.S., infant mortality is defined in a certain criteria. And one of those criterias is abortions. They count that as infant mortality. Okay? In many other countries, they don't count abortions as infant mortality. And there are other factors, okay, that they count in infant mortality. Even the age group of infant mortality is different in different countries. So looking at statistics can often be misaligned. And that's the only point that we're trying to make. You know, we present information that we live through. We live here full time. We have for years. We're exposed to life here in the city. We are exposed to life in the province. You know, we have a home in the province as well. Okay. So those are things that we can talk about and portray as a level of experience. But if I were to try and explain to you the difference between life in Arlen's province, Kitcherow, in her city of Kitcherow, and life in, say, Samar, a province. Okay? That'd be silly stupid. We've never lived in Samar. In fact, honestly, we've never been to Samar, although it's on our bucket list. You can't take a generalization of what life is like in one place and apply it to what life is like in another place. Now, this is going to lead us up to a very interesting subject that's going to be part of the next video that applies very heavily to a lot of expats. So I encourage you to, number one, obviously, please consider subscribing. Number two, hit that thumbs up. But more importantly, hit that bell. All right, click on that bell so you'll be notified for the next video, because it's going to shock you about the statistics of something that is unique. Well, not unique, but it is talked about quite often, and I think that the results of the statistics are very shocking, and I think you'll agree. Otherwise, one of the things that we want to get across is you're never going to know what it is that you are going to experience and how it applies until you get here. You can research everything you want, and we encourage that. And we encourage you to listen to everybody's opinion. Maybe not to take everybody's opinion, but to at least jot down some notes to look up and do some research of your own. And then we encourage you more so to look at that and say, hey, maybe I should look at more than one source for that answer. Get here to the Philippines. It's easy enough. There's no better time. There's no travel. I mean, traveling here is a piece of cake. My daughter, excuse the clutter in the room where this is my office and our spare bedroom. My daughter flies in a couple of days now, and when she gets here, she'll be staying here, but we'll also be traveling. So if my daughter can fly here solo as a 21-year-old, smart girl though, that's for sure. Actually, she's pretty perfect. But if she can do it, so can you. All right? Come to the Philippines, see it for yourself, and compare it to other places. That's what's really important. Otherwise, thanks so much. We hope you have a great day.